Flame Leviathan. Demos. Stack pyrite on the boss, your passenger will be able to shoot down and pick up pyrite barrels. Drive close to them and keep your stacks up. Also shoot oil on the ground to set it on fire. You will need to throw your passenger onto the boss when he casts System Overload. Pick your biggest ranged DPS to go up so they can hit all turrets. Chopper. You will be putting oil slicks between the boss and their pursuit target, also picking up players that have been launched and taking them back to their demos. Siege Engine. Your job is to interrupt flame vents when the boss casts it. The boss will fixate on random vehicles, don't let it get in melee range. Simply kite Flame Leviathan around the room, ads will spawn from the corners of the room, have demos focus these down. When the boss casts System Overload, 4 people should be shot up to nuke down the turrets. Razorscale. Don't stand in the fire. Tank ads, dispel sentinels, interrupt watchers, add prio, sentinels, watchers, then guardians. As you kill ads, the harpoons here will become active. Once all 4 are active, have someone click each harpoon to bring the boss down. Everyone needs to be behind the boss, DPS it as much as possible. Razorscale will fly up in the air after a while, so you'll repeat phase 1 until you can get her to 50% health. At 50%, the boss will become active. Have a tank pick it up, you want to slowly move it around the room to avoid fire on the ground. The tank will gain a stacking debuff, which reduces movement speed, so taunt at 2 stacks. A stacking debuff will be put on the raid, you have to kill it before this becomes too much. Ignis the Fartmaster. Tank the boss like this, it will do a frontal so everyone stand behind. When it does this frontal, it will leave behind a flame patch. Move the boss like this. It will cast 3 more times before the first flame patch despawns. If the flame patch touches the water, it'll despawn. Flame jets interrupts casting when it's finished casting. Ignis will also pick up a random player from the raid and put them up his ass, heal them. Ads will spawn throughout the fight. You want an off tank to pick them up. You can either tank them in the flame patch or root them there until they have 10 stacks. When they reach 10 stacks, they will drop threat. You want to pick them up and drag them into the water. You then want to deal 5k damage in 1 attack to them to shatter them, so you may need a DPS to help you. XT Deconstructor. Tank the boss here. There are 2 bombs that will go on the raid, Gravity Bomb and Light Bomb. You want to run away from the raid with these. At every 25% health, XT will produce his heart from his chest for 20 seconds. This heart takes 50% more damage. Killing the heart activates the hard mode, so try not to kill it. Whilst this is happening, ads will spawn at the back of the room. Your tank will want to pick up any pummelers. Your range will want to kill the bomb bots and repair bots before they reach the rest of the raid. Every 60 seconds, the boss will cast Tantrum. This is a 12-second AoE on the raid, so use some cooldowns. Cleave down the tank ads with the boss and rinse and repeat. The Iron Council. You can't AoE them down as others heal when one dies. Kill the bosses in this order: Steelbreaker, Molgheim, Brundir. I will refer to them as big, medium and small. Each boss gains abilities when another dies. Tank medium and small a bit away from the big one. Occasionally a ring of power will spawn on the ground. Pull the big one next to this and have your raid sit in it for a damage boost. The big boss will hit the tank with Fusion Punch, which deals a lot of damage and leaves a magic debuff that needs to be dispelled quick. You should try and interrupt the small one's chain lightning as much as possible. It will also cast Overload. This is a proximity AoE that you need to run away from. Once the big one dies, have your main tank taunt the medium one away and start DPSing this. However, you want to position someone that can interrupt the small one. Medium will now occasionally spawn a green rune of death on a player. You need to run out of this as fast as possible. The small one will begin casting Lightning Well. You want to interrupt this as it does big AoE damage. This takes priority over interrupting Chain Lightning. After that dies, switch to the final small boss, interrupt Chain Lightnings, Lightning Well, and run away from Overload. The final ability this gains is Lightning Tendrils. The boss will lift off the ground and pursue random people. Run away from this. When the boss lands, threat will reset, but he is tauntable. Kologarn. Have your tanks run up. The one tanking wants to always be close to the boss. The boss will put a stacking debuff on them, taunt on 2 stacks. You will want to begin this fight by focusing on the right arm, which is on the left side. Just look at the names, it's this one. When an arm dies, it deals big damage to the boss. However, you always want to keep one arm alive. When he has no arms, it deals big AoE damage. This arm picks up people periodically. You need to pump heals into them and nuke the arm to get it to drop them. This shouldn't be an issue if you're always focusing this arm. Kill the first arm, then focus the boss in the middle. When an arm dies, add spawn, have your tank that is not on the boss currently pick them up. Once the arm is respawned, kill it again. Run away from lasers on the ground. Auriaya. This boss patrols around the central ring of Ulduar immediately after Kologarn. The pull is vital to the success of this fight. You want your raid out of line of sight of the boss and the adds. Have the Death Knight drop a Death and Decay in front of the boss path to pull it. Tank it here, have an off tank pick up the adds, AoE down the adds but keep them on top of the raid group as they will pounce on anyone that is far away. Once the adds are dead, your main tank can face the boss away from the raid group. This was just so your tank didn't get pounced by the adds. The boss will cast an AoE Fear, Tremor it, or at least Fear Ward the tank. AoE small adds that spawn, a second type of cat will spawn. You can either nuke this or leave it up. If you kill it, it will drop a Void Zone. The final ability you have to worry about is Sonic Screech. This is a shared frontal AoE, so when the boss casts this, you want your tank to turn and face the raid, and then turn back. Alternatively, you can just have your raid permanently in front of the boss. Hodir. Free the ice dudes in the order on the screen. Each of these friendly allies will give some sort of buff. Mages will drop a small campfire that your ranged DPS will want to stack on to debuff the boss with your attacks. Druid will drop a starlight pillar that your melee will want to stack on, pull the boss to this location. Shaman will buff a player that increases critical strike damage of those around it. Throughout this boss fight, you'll get a stacking debuff that ticks damage to reduce stacks. All you need to do is move. The longer you are stood still, the higher your stacks will go and the more damage you will take. When the boss casts Frozen Blows, AoE frost damage will hit the raid on the boss's melee attacks, so get ready to heal. When the boss casts Flash Freeze, large icicles will fall from the ceiling. You need to let these drop and then quickly jump onto the patch of snow that is left behind, otherwise you'll be turned into an ice block. You will then want to break out the NPC again in the order showed earlier and any raid members. Thorim. Split your raid into two groups with tanks and healers and DPS in each, with group 1 being a bit more stacked than group 2. Once you kill the adds in the center of the room, group 1 will click this lever opening this corridor. You will run up and kill any adds on the way. A big dude at the end of the tunnel will fire something on either the left or the right side, so get ready to move either side. Continue on, keep killing stuff until you reach this part. Stick to the sides, otherwise you will be stunned. Hit Thorim to trigger the second phase. If you do this within 90 seconds of opening the gate, hard mode will activate. Meanwhile, group 2 will just be killing adds in the arena until phase 2 starts. You can spread out to reduce damage, but it's not very difficult. Phase 2, the boss will put a defense debuff on the tank. You want to swap when one gets this debuff. Your raid should spread out around the room for chain lightnings. Orbs will shoot towards the boss. You want to move away from them, as this is also where Thorim will do a large conal AoE. The boss gains damage as time goes on, so kill it before it overwhelms you. Freya. For Freya normal, you want to kill all the tree guardians around the room. Engage Freya and you will notice that she heals a lot. You'll need to defeat waves of adds until her buff is gone. Waves are random and will cycle through 3 different types. Wave 1, Small Lashes. A load of small plant lashes will spawn, they drop threat, and when they die they will explode, so try not to kill them all at once. Knock them back, or pop a raid cooldown. Wave 2, Big Tree. This dude spawns mushrooms whilst he's active. You'll be silenced unless you're stood under a mushroom. He can also put an AoE debuff on a raid member. It doesn't deal much damage, but run out if you need to. Wave 3, 3-pack. You need to kill these at the same time. The Snap Lasher needs to be slowed and kited as it gains more damage the more it is hit. Water Spirit will do a frontal, Storm Lasher does a chain lightning. There will be trees that spawn and grow throughout the fight. Your rangers need to kill this ASAP or you will wipe. Once all the waves are finished and the stacks are gone, look out for green glowing seeds on the ground. They will explode. Mimiron. Phase 1. Tank the boss in the middle, range spread out, the boss will put out some bombs around it. When the boss casts Shock Blast, run away from it. When the boss casts Plasma Blast on the tank, use a cooldown. This deals a lot of damage. Watch out for Napalm Shell, this will target a random ranged and will splash onto anyone close. It deals a lot of damage. Phase 2. You will not need a tank for this phase, range spread out around the room. Half the room on 10 man so you're in range of healers. The boss will shoot conal attacks at players, which is why you're spread. Melee want to always move to behind the boss to negate damage. The boss will also pulse AoE damage. The boss will periodically cast a laser barrage, which will cause a frontal line of fire that spins slowish around the room. This is a one-shot. Pro tip, running close to the boss makes it easier to outrun this. Finally, watch out for rockets that will be fired. There will be a red circle on where it lands. This is a one-shot too. Phase 3. Have one ranged DPS try to get threat and tank the aerial command unit. This is so damage is consistent on one target. Ranged DPS can then DPS the head. Bombots will spawn below the head. Have range nuke these before they reach the raid. Adds will also spawn from the beams of light. Have the melee tank pick them up. Melee want to focus down assault bots. Once an assault bot dies, someone, unless loot is on free-for-all, will need to loot the bot and pick up an item it drops. You then run underneath the aerial command unit and click the item in your bags. This causes the head to drop down and allow your melee to attack it. Repeat this until you have killed the head. Final phase. Clean up any adds you have. All previous phase bosses will appear and combine. Your goal is to kill them within 15 seconds of one another. You still want a range tanking the head and a regular tank on the base. Range want to spread out around the room and focus on the head as melee will not be able to reach it. Melee still need to run away from shock blasts, and everyone watch out for the laser barrage. Remember, all need to die within 15 seconds of each other. General Vezax. Vezax has an aura which reduces mana regeneration. Tank the boss where he is, set up an interrupt rotation for searing flames. The boss will cast a shadow crash on a range which will throw a projectile. Move out of this. A puddle will be left behind that will increase damage, reduce mana requirements, and speed up casting, but reduces your healing guns, so this is for ranged DPS only. Saronite vapors will also spawn. These are neutral mobs that you can kill. When they die, they will leave behind a green puddle that is way bigger than the graphic shows. When you stand on this, you will gain stacks of a buff that deals damage but gives you mana. Once you leave the puddle, the stacks will go. Healers will want to jump in and stay for around 5 stacks. Any higher, you will need to use a damage reduction to survive the ticking damage. Remember, you can run out, drop your stacks, and instantly go back in and start regaining stacks. You do not want to stack too much though, as the boss will cast Mark of the Faceless on a random player. This player will siphon life from everyone around them and transfer it to the boss. It is an insane amount of healing, so everyone needs to run away from this as fast as possible. Trust me, it is more healing than any DPS you could ever do in the time you should be running away. Finally, when the boss casts Surge of Darkness, your tank should immediately start running away and just kite the boss for the remainder of this buff. Yogg-Saron. Begin this fight by having your ranged group stacked together. This first phase, your only job is to avoid running into clouds. Your melee can stack on the tank. Again, your only job is to not run into the clouds. Clouds will activate passively and glow. This will spawn a mob. If you run into a cloud, you will also spawn a mob. Your tank will want to taunt these adds into the center of the room and tank them there. You need to kill the adds next to Sara in the middle. When a mob dies, it explodes, so your melee want to move out, especially if they are afflicted with Sara's fervor. Your goal is to kill 8 adds next to Sara until she dies too. Phase 2. The main mechanic of this fight is sanity. You will passively lose sanity throughout the fight as well as from failing mechanics. Once you reach 0 sanity, you will become mind controlled and basically become a raid boss. There are 3 types of tentacles that can spawn. Crusher tentacles, these need to have a tank stand next to them. Melee should not stand next to them. Range need to nuke these down. Corruptor tentacle, melee should be focusing these. Both ranged and melee need to interrupt these as much as possible. Constrictor tentacle, these will pick up someone and deal damage. They should be killed fast as well. Sara will be casting random abilities throughout, don't stand in laser beams. If you get Malady of the Mind, try and be far from the group. And finally, you can get Brain Link to a player. You will see a beam of light between the two of you. You need to close the distance between you both until the beam turns green or yellow. If at any point your sanity is low, you can stand in these green beams on the edge of the room to regain sanity. After 60 seconds, portals will open around the boss. Only one player can take each portal. You preferably want melee DPS to go down, as ranged are much more suited to the tentacles upstairs. When you take the portal, you will be teleported to one of the 3 random locations. Your goal is to clear out this area of the neutral mobs. Attacking them will spawn a tentacle that you will also need to kill. Static flying skulls will be placed around the rooms. You need to position yourself so that you are not facing these skulls. Whenever you are, your sanity will be reduced. This can be tricky sometimes, so just try to clear the rooms as fast as possible. Head back to where you spawned in and you will find the brain of Yogg-Saron. You have 60 seconds from when you first entered this area to leave via the portals in the brain room, otherwise you will lose all sanity. Before that time is up though, you want to DPS the brain as much as possible. You will be able to tell when the time is up by the brain finishing its cast. Once the brain has been taken to 30%, phase 3 will begin. You want to hopefully time this with clearing the upstairs of tentacles so you don't have to worry about too much. Phase 3 is relatively simple. Yogg does not need to be tanked, however ads will continue to spawn for your tank to pick up. You can passively cleave these down and Thorim will finish them off. The only ability you need to look out for is Lunatic Gaze. This will sap your sanity as long as you are looking at him, so just face your character away. Hey, thanks for watching. These guides take a lot longer than 30 seconds to make, so I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed or liked the video. We actually doubled our subscriber percent since the Malygos video, and we're now sitting at a cool 6.9%. Maybe you'd want to become a member of my channel to show your support. You can have your name here next to my lovely patrons. Speaking of, here's some cool character portraits I made for my patrons as a thank you. Also, check out these stream intros I've been doing. I'll be posting some more cool WoW 3D stuff in the future, so if you're interested, keep an eye out. Take care, and I'll see you next here.